Ambassador Reda, members of the Council, guests and friends, on behalf of our Board of Trustees, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you this evening. And we're very proud of our weather in Baltimore. This is our transition from April to May, and the day after this we'll make a transfer to July. We skip our spring occasionally here. But anyway, it's a lovely day for us, and we're delighted that you're here with us. Let me thank, first of all, for this evening's reception, which I know you all enjoyed, our fund, our sponsorship fund, which gives me an opportunity to remind all of you that if you'd like to contribute to the reception fund, you can do so via our webpage or via a newsletter slip cutout, which we have. I very seldom make those kind of pitches, but I thought this was an opportunity to do so. Our next two programs in May, I think you all know, Professor Robert Friedman of Hopkins, who's known to most of you, will speak on Russia and the United States. Can it be transformed, the relationship? And of course, the answer has to be yes, for the good of mankind. But as you know, Professor Friedman always gives an interesting presentation. He's been doing this for the Council a number of times, starting in 1981. And we have photos of him in his youth for those who are interested. And on the 31st of May, Tom Wright, who's with the Brookings Institution, will speak on the future of American foreign policy in a disordered world. And it may take him more than the allotted time to describe the disorder, but certainly the challenges are enormous. I think back to one of our former presidents who in a press conference, which I've never seen quoted, said that he hoped when the United States was no longer the world's greatest power, that it would be remembered for having used its power well. And certainly all of us share that. We recognize that this American primacy doesn't go on forever. I don't have to say that before anyone from Egypt who knows something about time and change. And it is a passing time, but certainly one hopes that when our young nation is no longer the world's greatest power, it'll be remembered nicely for having used its power well. But our topic tonight, as you all know, is United States-Egypt relations. It's a relationship which all of us value enormously. There is absolutely no question that there's no power in the Middle East probably more important to regional stability than Egypt. And I think we clearly recognize that. We certainly wish Egypt the well. We treat them as a great friend and a great ally. We are plagued, some people think, by a certain amount of friction within our politics today. And I don't think for a moment we're as divided as the media would allow us to think we are. I think there are enormous bonds within the country. But Egypt has internal problems as well, which we'll hear something about tonight, I presume. We're interested in the internal affairs of Egypt. We're very interested in the power that they bring to regional stability, as I think right-minded nations today pursue a stable international order. Our guest, you all know, is the ambassador. He's been good enough to join us. He's made the arduous trek to Baltimore. I've just been listening to a tape about the early African explorers. If you know much about that, of course, their treks were really something, walking thousands of miles. But making up from Washington is almost as bad. But in any case, the ambassador is a seasoned diplomat. He graduated from Cairo University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in commerce. He's been in the Foreign Service for over 3 decades. His early assignments including Italy, Iraq, China, and small island in the Mediterranean. And he was the DCM in Berlin. He served as Assistant Foreign Minister and Chairman of the Minister's Cabinet once. And then after a tour of duty in Israel, he returned to that same post again, from which he has then been appointed as ambassador to the United States about a year ago. It's an enormous pleasure and honor to present the Ambassador of Egypt, His Excellency, Mr. Reda.
Good evening. Mr. President of the Baltimore Council on Foreign Relations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm so sorry to be late, but because the traffic and this is a problem. And I thought everybody is coming for to attend my speech, but unfortunately. But anyways, I appreciate very much. I'll be honored to be with you. And I would like to introduce my wife, Nahla. She insists to be with me always. And she always, beside me. And also, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Ayman Dessouky, is a minister plenipotentiary, man with many hats. Even that was very short hair, but always really. It's a privilege really to join you tonight in Baltimore. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Baltimore Council on Foreign Relations for inviting me here tonight. To be very frank, before I'm going, that's a little bit to speak in front of you. I would like to be, speak a little bit very long to avoid any questions, because I know that it will be. Because I know that this crowd for sure that you are ready for many questions, and I know that sometimes I cannot answer. But no, I'm kidding. I'm ready for questions. I'm ready for to interact with you, and really it's a pleasure, a great pleasure for me to see all this crowd with this very lovely city, and I like it very, very much. It's thank you again for for inviting me for this is a very distinguished and very prestigious event. Thank you very much again. I also appreciate this opportunity to share with you Egypt's perspective on the challenge confronting the Middle East, which are considerable. To do so, I would like to address Egypt's leadership role in regional context and highlight the importance of Egypt-US strategic partnership. This partnership is not only critical to both our nations, but also to international stability and security. And I can confidently say that with President el-Sisi's visit to Washington earlier this month, the relationship has never been stronger. Starting a few years ago, the Arab Spring profoundly altered the dynamics that governs national politics and international relations in the Middle East. A wave of political and social change swept the region and shook it to its very core, launching a historic moment full of both opportunities and risks, the outcome of which remains uncertain today. How to navigate the resulting challenges that all nations in the region confront in the core policy questions of our time and will have significant impact on how the 21st century plays out in the Middle East. Today, our region is beset with threats, conflicts, and turbulence on an almost unimaginable scale. Egypt, positioned at its center, has confronted the same challenges as many of our neighbors: political upheaval, economic uncertainty, domestic and international terrorism, and major shifts in regional alliance. Yet Egypt, compared to our neighbors, had charted a very different course in the wake of Arab Spring, one anchored not only in our history, but on the resilience of the Egyptian people. Egypt's approach is to overcoming its challenges and the complex challenges facing the Middle East rests upon two core pillars. The first pillar, in our view, that orderly change is necessary to break through the critical impasse that the region has reached. It's also needed to fulfill the aspiration of millions of young people who make up over 60% of the region's population. The second pillar is our view that cohesive nation states with strong, functioning institutions are the most appropriate way to achieve this orderly change. We, as much as any country in the region, have been the focal point of post-Arab Spring regional and the global affairs. Egypt has demonstrated through the two waves of its revolution in 2011 and 2013 that orderly and progressive change which responds to the aspiration of the majority of the population while maintaining the integrity of the nation-state institutions is a viable choice. And over the last 6 years, the change and we have undergone has been transformational. We have radically reshaped and democratized our government, revived our traditional leadership role in the region, and embarked on the most ambitious program of political and economic reform in our modern history. Crucially, we have done so without undermining the integrity and the legitimacy of the state, as our citizens have demanded a say in their future. Egypt has built governing structures that are responsive to these demands. We don't discount the challenges on our path to achieving full democracy or the obstacles resulting from a legacy of economic and political burdens. But we are confident that the Egyptian people's resolve and determination will overcome these and other challenges that lay ahead. Meanwhile, the experience of our neighbors over past several years have demonstrated beyond any doubt that undermining the institution of nation-states in the Middle East creates a political and a social vacuum, one that is quickly filled by violent extremism, sectarian militias, and terrorists whose ideological and antithetical to citizens' hopes for democracy, modernization, and revival of civic order. Ladies and gentlemen, just as the Egyptian people are shaping the development of modern Egypt, so too can our brothers and sisters across the region. And we believe that they must do so if we, the region, and the world are to move forward. Reaching political solution to the ongoing crisis in Syria and Libya that preserve existing national structures and territorial integrity of these countries is of paramount importance if we are to bring an end to bloodshed and suffering of their peoples. Syria is without doubt the most urgent crisis that confronts the region and the world today. With more than 500,000 Syrians killed, millions of refugees and displaced persons, and dangerous terrorist organizations such as ISIS taking advantage of the chaos to spread their violence and hatred, it is difficult and indeed heart-wrenching to remember that this is a tragedy started with peaceful, democratic, and legitimate demands that are the basic right of the Syrian people. Our vision for the way forward in Syria is based on two principles. The first is to preserve national unity and territorial integrity of Syrian state and to prevent the collapse of its institutions. The second is to support the legitimate aspiration of Syrian people in rebuilding their own state through an acceptable political solution that represents all and provides an enabling environment for reconstruction efforts. This is why we continue to support the effort of the UN Special Envoy and looking forward to the resumption of political negotiation next month. These principles also guide our decision to host two all-inclusive conferences for moderate Syrian opposition groups in Cairo in 2012 and 2015. These gatherings brought together Syrians from across the political spectrum and demonstrated that they can agree on comprehensive plans that include a visible roadmap for the transition from the current plight in Syria. These plans have formed the foundation upon which every sequential effort, Syria or international, to put forward for a practical political settlement has been based. The case of Libya is quite similar. The 2015 Sukhayrat Agreement was based on acknowledgement that any viable settlement should revolve around the three legitimate state institutions: A, the Presidency Council; B, the House of Representatives; C, the National Army. But achieving consensus among the three institutions has not been easy. We do remain convinced, however, that a successful settlement in Libya must include all key parties. And we don't think that any non-Libyan party can contribute positively to the institution in Libya while favoring or excluding Libyan stakeholders. Consequently, Egypt's vision for Libya is based on the full implementation of Sukhayrat Agreement. We must now encourage the Presidency Council to fulfill its duty to present a new, more inclusive and representative government of national accord. Once this is achieved, we should all shift our attention to ensuring Libyan elections that would bring about governing bodies that exercise their full authority over a united and territorially intact Libyan national state. The alternative, the collapse of Libyan state and its institutions, is unimaginably worse and would present opportunities for the type of protracted and devastating civil war that we have seen in Syria. These conflicts all follow the same pattern: troubled nation state, faltering and creating a vacuum that is subsequently filled by extremist organizations and sectarian militias, and they can all benefit from the same solution: revived, reformed, and all-inclusive modern nation states that are responsive to the needs and demands of their people. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond Syria and Libya, the pursuit of a reformed and modernization nation state is also the answer to the oldest conflict in our region, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Since the Camp David Accords, which we will celebrate its 40th anniversary next year, Egypt has been the pioneer of peace in the Middle East. Our vision was and remains based on full nation statehood for all in the region. We are committed to bringing to a successful end more than 6 decades of this conflict, without which we cannot shift the resources of our region to more productive channels. Palestinians cannot be denied the right to an independent nation state. Without a two-state solution, there will be continued turmoil. The parties, therefore, must return to good faith negotiations. For Egypt's part, President El-Sisi has offered publicly to support any such negotiations and to provide, if needed, post-agreement security guarantees. Ladies and gentlemen, as we address this crisis, respect for the sovereignty of nation states in the Middle East, it is a bedrock principle of Egypt's foreign policy. We continue to pursue a balanced foreign policy and remain, as always, ready to cooperate with all our partners to resolve the crises that affect our region and the world. Most important among our partnerships in addressing challenges and promoting peace, security, is Egypt's strategic partnership with the United States. In a word, the Egypt-US relationship is resolved. It has endured and benefited peoples for our two countries and the entire region for decades, and will continue to do so. It involves much more than just cooperation between our security establishments. It's a meaningful, functioning partnership on a range of issues that extend to the highest levels of our governments, to our commercial relations with the private sector, and to people exchanges that take place between students, tourists, and expatriates throughout your country and ours. During President el-Sisi's recent visit to Washington, he and President Trump reaffirmed their commitment to this partnership, and especially to work together with regional partners to combat terrorism and restore stability in the Middle East. And the following day, in a series of meetings with President el-Sisi on Capitol Hill, the leader of Congress shared their resolve to support these efforts. Coming out this historic visit, the question before Egypt and the United States today is what we must do to build on this shared resolve. What must we do together to further strengthen our partnership, overcome regional challenges, and achieve our common vision of security, stability, and opportunity for all. We are fortunate that because of our long-standing ties, we have a strong foundation upon which to build. The resumption of an Egypt-US strategic dialogue in 2015 marked a new milestone in cooperation between our governments, providing an important mechanism for dialogue and action on critical diplomatic, security, economic, culture, and other shared interests. Expanding male-to-male or military-to-military consultation over the past year have enabled us to collaborate more effectively against regional threats. We have also had progress in the cultural sphere, where close law enforcement cooperation last year resulted in the repatriation of stolen antiquities from the US to their rightful place in Egypt. We are now pressing forward with this and other initiatives. Just this month, the governor of the central bank, together with ministers of housing, finance, investment, international cooperation, visited Washington, D.C. to advance our economic partnership with the United States, officials, business, executives, and other leaders at the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And as they were traveling here, Secretary of Defense James Mattis was in Cairo to follow up with President el-Sisi and our military leadership on next steps to address mutual security challenges in the region. The next round of our strategic dialogue expected to take place next summer. We will guide and accelerate this and other engagements, ensure that the objectives of our governments are transformed into tangible results in all areas. Deepening our partnership on all fronts also reinforces the trust we share and the leadership we must sustain in tackling the post-Arab Spring challenges I noted at the beginning of my remarks. I would like to conclude by noting that, underlining all the efforts I have touched on this evening is a common understanding that a strong and successful Egypt is central to achieving both Americans' goals in the Middle East and lasting stability, and security in the region. In short, we are the indispensable partner for America in our region. And we will continue to do all we can to serve as a model for others. Thank you. Your interest not only in Egypt's vision for the Middle East, but how we are working with the United States to advance peace and stability. Our two countries have worked together to achieve great things in the last 40 years. Today, circumstances and crises throughout our region call on us to do so again. I know that with a strong partnership between Egypt and the United States, we will remain resolved, and we are up to the challenge. Thank you. I look forward to your question. Many thanks.
Well, we thank you for an interesting and comprehensive view. The floor is now open for questions. Mr. Ambassador, could we extend our Q&A for perhaps 5 minutes beyond our normal time?
No, yes, I'm most welcome. I think it's not a long speech, and I intended to do so to give a chance for Q&A.
We'll end promptly at 7:15. Yes, sir. Yes.
I find reassuring the fact that you've served under several administrations. Is your Foreign Service largely career people who do survive these changes in administration?
The question is your Foreign Service made up essentially of career people who continue to serve regardless of the government in power?
No, I serve, that's, this is my service. I serve, that's because we are a professional diplomat. And for this reason, we are serving, the interests of our people. That's the Egyptian people. We are not serving, yes, we are presenting for sure, that's our government, our president, and so on. But finally, we are representing also our people. For this reason, that's as a professional diplomat, and this is give us, a strong heritage for a long, long time. That we're presenting the interests of the people themselves, and this is it give us, that's strength, and it give us, that's for a long time, if we can say, sustainability to continue our work, regardless of who is who. For even that's when I was in Israel, for example, I represent, three, if you can say, three administrations or three regimes. President Mubarak, and after Mubarak, I present, the SCAF, that's the military after Mubarak being removed, after our first revolution. And after that, we have Morsi. This is three different, that's for sure, that's three different administrations. But I lived in Israel as an ambassador of Egypt, and I succeeded. Because, that's my goal is my country and my people.
Mr. Smore has a short question.
Many of my friends believe that the Syrian civil war is occurring in the context of the Sunni-Shiite rivalry, and that Saudi Arabia has organized a coalition to overthrow Assad because of that. Is Egypt a member of that coalition? And if so, does that indicate that you support the Sunni side of that rivalry?
For this reason, I said really I should, speak, more and more.
But I'll repeat the question, but you have an opportunity to reinterpret it again. In any case, Mr. Smore wants to know what role you're playing, considering the divide between the two great paths of Islam and the role played by the Saudis as well. How would you place Israel within that complex situation?
Egypt.
How would you place Egypt?
You can do that too.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, as I said, really, that's Egypt, and even my remarks and my speech, and Egypt always really that's playing a very constructive, role. We don't like, to play in this sectarian, that's a rivalry, or, that's a war, because we are hate and we are against. We don't like to turn the region on this, that's this war, because it's very, very dangerous. Because for a long time we don't have, such a war, and we don't have, such of a division between, that's two sectarian in Islam, and within also Sunni we have many also groups, and within Shia and so on. If we divide, that means it's an endless, definition. For this thing, we're always talking about the right of the Syrian people, the right of Syrian people to have and to enjoy, for that's a peaceful, that solution, and to reach, that's as we did, in Egypt. That's we are succeed and we reach to that's the safest, shore, which we have. That's our government. We have our constitution and so on. We would like to enhance the whole institutions in Syria, regardless who's who, and to reach a political solution to solve the problem. We are not going to take sides. We are not, because they are all Syrians. We are not, that's because who's who. I mean, why you are going to support somebody against the others? Both, they are Syrians. Whatever, they are talking, regardless about, that's his, identity, his, that's background, his religion, and so on. Why that's I'm going, to define or have to divide, that's the society in Syria. That's our position is very clear. We are talking about all Syrian. They are the same, they are on equal foot, and they should work together. And when we invite the Syrian groups to Egypt, and we are, that's talking about that's the Syrian group in Egypt, they are representing, that's the full spectrum of the Syrian society, regardless who is a Shiite, or, Kurd, or, this is a Sunni. This is our position. And this is what clearly, that's the president, and when he was here in Washington, we are not, supporting, that's one side against the other side. We are supporting the idea that we should have a political solution and to enhance the national institutions. That's the government, the army, and the government. That means I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about the government, which will be there are a consensus among, the all Syrian group, the Syrian people themselves, and the army. This is very important. We should keep, that's to preserve all Syrian institutions. This is very important. We don't like to have a failed state as we have right now, maybe in Somalia or Libya and other, countries, and we don't like to see Syria to be a failed state.
Yes, sir.
We've had 98 days of President Trump being a leadership. What is the attitude of the Egyptian leadership and the Egyptian people towards President Trump?
The gentleman would like you to comment again on the view of your leadership and your public on the President of the United States.
That's because I am ambassador of Egypt here in the United States. After I will conclude, that's my mission here. I can, reply, that's. No, but I can say really that's to be very frank with you, because we a little bit, we had some problems with the last administration, with Obama, certainly, because after we have two revolutions and so on, we have some misunderstanding between Egypt and the United States. With the beginning, with the new administration, we had, that's some, if you can say, to rectify the relationship, the understanding. But I cannot judge from that's only the first 100 days. Yes, the President Trump, he received, that's our president in White House, and it was very warm, that's reception, and he was very forthcoming, and he appreciating the role of our president and Egypt and so on, and he is looking forward to how to collaborate with Egyptian leader and the Egyptian people and so on. The reaction from our side as the Egyptian people also, I notice also in our media, is a positive. But it doesn't mean that we are now, we are in a final chapter. This is a beginning. I cannot judge because this is too early. It's premature to say, yes, we are now, I can assure you, this is a sustained. No, we should work together. We know that work together means not only with the administration, with all Americans. Because what our intention here to build a new partnership between the two nations. I'm not here just only to bring, or to build a relationship between the two administrations. Because what we did, the last 40 years, I would like to see a different, perspective, a different, point of view concerning the next 40 years, which we would like to build bridges and interest among, the nations themselves. For this, I think it's premature to judge right now. But as in a matter of principles and the beginning and so on, yes, we are much better than, that's the last 4 years. But it needs a lot of effort. Just as, that's, to be diplomatic.
Given the dynamics of politics around you, how committed is Egypt to a two-state solution?
It's not a matter of commitment. It's a matter of, this is the only option. That's, we don't have any other option. We don't have, that's, you cannot say that we should think out of the box because this is the only box we have. Really, that's we don't have any other boxes, that's if you find another box, it's okay, you're most welcome because one state solution, it doesn't work, it's not viable, it's not, it doesn't fly. I've been in Israel, I stayed there, 4 years. I can, that's, this is my experience there. I and my wife was there 4 years there, and I know quite well, that's within my experience, I can assure you that's a one state solution, it doesn't fly, even for the Israeli, public opinion. Because even demographically, I don't believe that it will help, that's Israeli people. The rate of birth and so on, if you can see, that's maybe in 2030 or 2040, you will see that's a completely different story. That means that's a two-state solution. Even this is in favor of Israeli people. And if we're talking about what is, what's the alternative? How you can solve it? That means, as I said, really, it's not a matter of commitment, rather than it's a matter of we are committed to solve the problem. And this is the only option right now. We don't have, as I said, really, even that you'll be trying to think, as I said, really, again, out of the box. How do you see? That's to be a federal, or to be, that's confederal, and so on. We don't have any other formula right away. Right now, it can solve this problem. The only way, this is the only two-state solution. Because the problem, as a core problem here, as I always said, you would like to safeguard, that security for Israeli people. And in the meantime, you would like to safeguard, the identity for a Palestinian. This is a core issue. How to strike the balance, that's between the two, and to solve the problem. This is the equation. And we are very committed, to that, to try to figure out how to reach to this point. And we are committed, to this solution because, as I said, this is the only way. Because even that's our experience with Israel. We reached to this point, which is, in the meantime, it is two-state solution. That's why we have Egypt and Israel. That means Jordan and Israel. This is always like that. You always have, why that's not applied to a Palestinian question? Because when we have a peace to be sustained, we reach the concept of two-state solution. That's between Egypt and Israel. You accept the idea. We have borders. We have that's two states, and we recognize by each other. That's it means we agreed upon that's two-state solution. For this reason, the peace sustained now more than 30 years between the two countries, between Egypt and Israel, as also Jordan. For this, I said really this is the only way, and our experience as Egypt, as I told you, we are a pioneer in this, that's in this matter. I do believe we don't have any other option, and also in the sake of Israeli people.
The question is a bit esoteric for most of us, but on your ID cards, there's a section for religion. Is there any intention of modifying that?
I think maybe this is the right time to give now a chance to Mr. Dessouky, my colleague, really. Because that's our, that's the consul, and he can really give a...
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. It's a very interesting one. Actually, we have this religious nomination in our ID still now, really, for a very important reason. As you might know, we have a large portion of our community are Christians. And according to our laws, they have their own personal laws. So one of the issues we really actually want to make sure that to give them the chance to clarify themselves, because some of the laws apply to the majority who are Muslims cannot apply to the Christians. So we want to preserve their privacy, their interest, their laws. So that's why it indicates the religion. And one of the issues, we discussed this several times. I myself worked on that, and we figured out it's really difficult to take it out because it will require lots of evidence to prove your own religion in order to ask for application of your own laws. Because there are some quite differences between, like marriage, for example. In our Orthodox church, there is some difficulty. If you got divorced, for example, it's really hard and you cannot get married or get divorced after in Islamic law. You might have more than one wife. It's your right, yeah. No. I know we're not pro that, but it happens. So that's why we keep it right now. We are trying to find a different solution to preserve the laws and at the same time actually take it out from ID cards, because sometimes some people look at it as a discrimination information for our Copts.
Why not have the religious authority issue an ID for a person stating his religion, different, separate from the ID card that's state issued? So this issue of discrimination is not an issue. So because the state issued ID card is used for all kinds of.
I'm going to ask for a quick answer to the question of why not have a separate ID card.
Actually, imagine if everybody has a separate ID card and so on, you will have to move with like 5 or 6 ID cards in your pocket. It's going to make difficult, yeah. So we're still working on that, actually. We try to find out-of-the-box solution and so on. But what I assure you that we're working on this very hard. The government give lots of effort to find a more practical solution. Very soon, yeah.
I know that we are working on it, and because I know still is a problem, and we are working on it. But I don't know exactly where we are right now. But we'll come back again to you to feed you back.
I think that, sir, if I may.
But now that's a yes.
If I may,
we'll come back to you earlier. That's as soon as we come. Yeah.
If you don't mind, you could pursue this at great length with the embassy.
Yes, we can have really the contact with Ayman or me directly. You are most welcome, and we'll keep our discussion.
The question for the camera was, have you ever considered joining the European Union? And
maybe
that's
the European Union, they would love to join, that's Egypt. And yeah. Because, that's for a long time, we have a lot, that's a very big European community in Egypt. When that's during even the kingdom and so on, before it was after the Second World War. We have an Italian and a Greek, and that's who is in French, and that's British, and we have that's a lot of that's of European community, and they live in Egypt, and it was for them Egypt was a haven, and they joined that's the European community at that time. They joined Egypt. But hoping, that's the time, but the time changed, as that's you said. But hoping, that's the time is coming, really, that's to be a part again with Europe. Thank you again.
I think you're next, ma'am, in the second row, yes.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, as a world history teacher, and wanting to go to Egypt very much, what is Egypt doing to re-encourage people to come and visit? I know tourism has taken a hit, and I'd love to travel to Egypt, but how can, what's being done to protect the safety, not only of tourists, but the Egyptian citizens themselves within their country?
Is it safe to travel, and what advice do you give?
No, I advise, that's to go to Egypt and to touch the base, and you will find, the people themselves, they will give you, the full assurance that our country is very safe. And don't, that's follow sometimes the media, because sometimes, unfortunately, it's be biased, or sometimes really that's they're not saying the truth. Sometimes they're just only focused on a certain incident and so on. But let's, that's try it, and I assure you that you will go and come back with it will be a trip. You will be a very enjoyable trip, because I said really my country and my people, they are very, they are very warm, and they are, looking for, the tourists and to come back again, and you will find the hospitality there and everything, the history, the civilization, everything. And please, if you go there, please, I wait you in the embassy to come back to just to give me your experience.
Anxiously, or we planning a trip?
Or even before you go, please come, that's the embassy to visit me, and visit also the consul, and we can facilitate your trip there, and you will come back. We can have here, that's a reception to invite everybody. Yes, in your honor, okay?
The challenging question is there much left for the Palestinians in a two-state solution?
Now that I am, ambassador of Egypt, not ambassador of Palestinian, but but now that's I cannot, reply on behalf of Palestinian, because whatever the Palestinian agreed, that's Egypt is going to support, because this is. I cannot hear that to say something on behalf of, that's our Palestinian brother or sisters, because I know that's what you are talking about. But the problem here is that's what the Palestinians they are looking for, what the Palestinians they agreed upon. If they agree upon it, this is, this is a piece of land, this is okay, they agreed that it will be their state and so on. Egypt for sure will support. If they said really this is not the right and this is what we are looking for, to have a different, view and so on, then we will figure out, our policy. But for this reason, I cannot really hear that's a reply your question on behalf of Palestinian. Sorry for that.
Thank you.
Would you please speak to whatever divisions exist within your community with reference to the awakening, of course?
I cannot say that we have a division among my country. If we have, that's a certain views or, that's a differences, it doesn't mean that we have a division. Because here, as I said, really, we shouldn't follow, the media and think tanks, and sometimes they are, I don't say they mislead, but sometimes they have a stereotype about my country. But I invite you all to go freely and to go to visit my country, to even to check it with everybody, with a taxi driver, to anybody in the street. I'm not going to, that's to say, to go to the government or, officials, no, anybody. And normally, that's the people in the streets, and to ask them how you see the government, how you see the president, how you see the Muslim Brotherhood, how you see the situation, and that's I do believe that you will go and come back with a different point of view. For sure, as I said, we don't have a division. We are not, that's with other countries. So around us, talking about a division, and we have, that's a society, they are very polarized, and, that's, no, we don't have. Yes, for sure, we have a different view. And this is, normal. That's in the United States. After, the elections, you don't have a different, that's in your views?
If I may, I summarize that question very quickly. And I think it invites your comment on the nature of the Arab Spring and how that fits within your society today. The discontents that were evidenced by the Arab Spring and whether those are being dealt with today.
What is the meaning?
Well, if you don't think there is one,
No.
that of course, that's an answer to the question. I think the intent was, though, that there were some discontents, large, small, indifferent, whatever, and whatever they may be, whatever you imagine them to be, how is the government dealing with those, if it even has
No,
to?
that's for sure. That's as a government, as a president, and so on. We are working on a vision, and we are, as we said in the beginning. What is the first slogan concerning from the first revolution in 2011? That's عيش حرية عدالة اجتماعية. That's bread, freedom, social justice. That's what we're talking. First of all, that's bread. Then the first slogan when they went to the streets, they're not talking about that's the freedom. They not put it first. That doesn't mean that we ignore freedom. No, as I said here, this is our vision. We put it all together. This is it's a multi layer that's approach. We are talking about as we are approaching a human right. We are talking about human needs. It should be parallel together. We cannot, that's ignore, one and we ignore, that's on the others. Because I said really that we have human needs. The people, we have illiteracy. You have, that's a lack of education. You have a lack of, that's medical care. And you have a lack, that's many things. But also you have, yes, a lack of a freedom and, that's to have a free of express and press and so on. Yes, I fully understand about the Arab Spring and so on, but it should be work together. It should be in a parallel, two tracks. I fully agree with you, but I cannot be just only focused on one track and you just ignore the others. Yes.
We have time for one last question.
Maybe do a simple, clear question just to end. Mr. Ambassador,
We have the definitive last question.
but you've had lots of experience around the world serving. And we know a lot of military aid is going into the Middle East from our country, speaking as an American. Would you hazard to guess that, say, 20 years from now, whether there would be more or fewer or more nation states in the Middle East? How is it going to play out?
The question can be, I think, answered briefly. The question was, what's your imagination about how many middle states there will be in the Middle East 20 years from now? If you.
That's I think this is maybe here. That's the crystal ball, and I will see. No, but no, it's very that's a smart question. It's very difficult. It's very that's it's I cannot project really. That's I cannot really imagine because the situation right now, what I am seeing, it gives me that's sometimes you'll be very pessimistic. That's you feel that's as if you will find a lot. You're going to see a non-state actors rather than to see a state actors. But as I said, really, that's according to what we are going to see right now. But for this reason, this is why my country is very concerned. Why my country we are talking about we should that's immediately act and work together because we are afraid we be surrounded with non-state that's actors. We should work together. We should act immediately to preserve the that's institutions, to preserve that's the states, and this is very very important. And this is why that's the President Sisi really when I was here emphasized about particularly in this point. Ayman, you like to add something?
Our last question, sir. The question is, what is your nation's set of policies on humanitarian needs?
I do believe that we are in the front, that's line which in the country, even that we are in third world country and we are suffering a lot economically and so on. But we had, that's, or not we have a lot of programs concerning, that's humanitarian aid. Maybe I'll give a chance to hear that to Ayman also because he's responsible for, this matter. And he can brief you that's about, this issue concerning Sudan and South Sudan and Somalia and so on. And we have an agency that's also affiliated to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he can brief you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Actually, I know the time is very tight, but to give you an idea what we are doing in Somalia and South Sudan, even Sudan, and as His Excellency correctly mentioned, we have an agency within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Its primary goal is to provide assistance, technical assistance to African countries. One of the most countries we actually have lots of programs is Somalia. For many reasons, actually, it's almost a failed state, and the terrorism there, as you might know, Harakat al-Shabaab, are very much present in this country. So we have many programs. One of the most interesting program is concluding by Al-Azhar. We have 11 Islamic institutions. The main role is countering the message of the terrorist groups in Somalia. Because we believe that the ideology of those extremism and the way they are using and promoting their ideas to recruit more affiliates to their terrorist group is very dangerous. So we worked hard with the Somalian government, with the African Union, with the international community to help them countering the distorted message of the Al-Shabaab and other jihadist groups, provide some technical assistance like medical aid to South Sudan and Somalia. We send even what we call field hospitals to provide first on time and on ground assistance to the people there. We host lots of students from these countries in our universities free of charge. We host lots of officials, government people in order to come and teach them how to run their countries. We assisted them in, especially Somalia, in their elections, which took place very recently. That's actually some sort of the programs we provide to those countries from the humanitarian point of view. There are many issues like countering terrorism, military aid, anything like that. We do a lot of programs, but we don't have enough time to do that.
No, sorry, that's because I noticed really we have a lot of questions from this side, but I noticed really this side we don't have any question. I don't know, that's it seems really I'm very comprehensive on this side, but the case is not.
We were absolutely fair in all of this.
Next time, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again.